Welcome back to another edition of the ASUN Gameday Podcast, the official podcast of ASUN Athletics. I'm Jordan Griffitt, joined by William Hall and Mike DeVader. Guys, first of all, I'm just happy to be back with you guys. I mean, it was a long week for me. I was pretty much on my deathbed last Monday and Tuesday, so I mean, happy for Kendrell to be able to get some camera time, step in, and did a great job.
I mean, it's tough. We had the top two teams lost in men's basketball, and the podcast lost Jordan last week. So I mean, I think the pain can be felt through Kennesaw down to the HQ here in Atlanta, all the way up to the mountains in Lynchburg.
I never thought I would have this big of a ripple effect.
I mean, I think you started it. It just was like a
domino effect.
Cascade of just calamities.
Even though my sickness happened after those. Oh no,
that was before.
No, you're talking. Okay,
no
one really.
But it was extended because
right,
you were sick on early in the week.
Yeah, my
they
sickness.
They won on Thursday and then they lost on Saturday. So
loss, and then
but
a lot of things happened.
Hangover. That's what it was.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I caused that. I feel responsible.
More people missed you than you realize.
Yeah.
Well, Kendrell did a great job stepping in. You guys. You stepped up and you manufactured the podcast. Not that I doubted you, but you guys did it. Next man up.
We got it done.
You didn't miss me at all.
We should be proud. We did what
2
we
interviews.
Yeah, we knocked out 2.
You guys got that dog in you.
We set the bar kind of high. I'm just saying.
Woo! Don't mess with DeVader or William Hall.
I'm just saying.
All right, time to get into our ASUN analysis. We already prefaced an incredible week, some upsets over the weekend. Let's start with the women's side. Austin Peay getting 2 W's, 72-52, and then 82-69 over EKU. They beat Bellarmine in the first game. Liberty also taking down Kennesaw State 65-57, and Jacksonville State 72-62 in overtime. The Flames are hot right now. Lipscomb with 2 wins against EKU, another good one for them, 72-65, and Bellarmine 87-82. And then Florida Gulf Coast, we have that game up here right now, 106-51 over UNF. They were hitting the lights out from beyond the arc, as they always do. FGCU looking like a juggernaut right now. All right, for the men's, Lipscomb having a heck of a weekend, beating Queens 66-60 and beating Liberty 69-64. A Boyd game for that one. EKU beating Jack State last second 79-77. A Cooper Rob corner 3 inspired that one. And then Kennesaw State 77-74. What an incredible week for EKU and Lipscomb. Kind of the two teams right underneath Kennesaw State and Liberty taking down both of those teams. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. UNA beating FGCU in OT 87-85. The Lions are hot right now as well. And then Queens with the buzzer beating win over Austin Peay 70-69 from BJ McLaurin. Okay, take a breath. Our biggest takeaways from last week, guys. Let's start with the women's. What do you have, Mike?
Well, I think on the women's side, it's kind of a little bit different than the men's right now, because in the women's side, I think it's wild and crazy and unpredictable right now, but I think the conference is starting to separate itself into about 3 segments. You got the top 4 teams, then some 5 and 6 teams that had lost to them that are kind of in the middle of the pack, and then you got the lower tier teams that are looking to get into the middle portion and fight for that spot.
3 segments?
Yeah, we got 3 divisions right now, I think.
So FGCU's still in that division with Liberty and
Lipscomb. I think the top.
They don't get their own division.
Hey.
According to DeVader.
Okay.
I think in reality here, when we look at the conference as a whole, there's 4 teams that are separating themselves as a group from the rest of the pack. There's some teams in the middle that are kind of hit and miss. We're hot to start the season. Now they're kind of cooling off. They got to get back onto it. Then there's some teams that haven't had such good success on the court that are trying to fight to get into that middle portion of the conference, to get into that conversation for the postseason. But I really think those top 4 teams are really starting to not necessarily put a stranglehold on the league at this point, since we just went past halfway. But, man, if something doesn't happen quickly, that really could happen where these 4 teams start to run away from the rest of the group, and they say see you in the postseason, because those 4 teams are really, really playing good basketball. And on the men's side, I just think you don't know what you're going to get any day. I mean, anything can happen. Like we've talked about in weeks past, almost every single podcast, if you don't play the game that you're supposed to play, especially if you're on the road, you're going down.
Yeah, I think those are good points to make, and we talked about that for the men's pretty much the entire season. To piggyback off of the women's, and you know what, I'm going to pat myself on the back just a little bit here. I went out on a limb preseason, and I made the Kennesaw State pick for the men's, right? That looks pretty decent. Again, a lot of season left to play, a lot of postseason left to play. But maybe even better pick was the Austin Peay women's. 9-2 right now, and they have what I believe to be the worst and best kept secret in the ASUN in Shamari Hale. We talked about Yamiah Johnson pre all ASUN selection, all conference ASUN selection, excuse me. 19 minutes per game, has started 1 game for the Governors, averaging 11.2, leading the team. 6'1" center, a dominant force in the paint, has led the charge along with Yamiah Johnson and Mariah Adams for this Austin Peay team, and they look as good as anybody on the women's side, including FGCU. They look pretty good. FGCU obviously is a different breed we've seen throughout the last few years, but getting 2 wins against Bellarmine by 20 and EKU 82-69, guys. We were talking about EKU's offense being this lethal monster, this juggernaut, and Austin Peay not only douses them, but scores 82 on them as well. So being able to see Austin Peay's maturation, talked to Coach Brittany Young last week, this is a team that I think is going to be a problem. And so that, for the women's, was my biggest takeaway.
Well, also on that, I think the offense coming around for Austin Peay is a little bit of a positive surprise on our end. Because when we talk to them and kind of think about Austin Peay, it's always about a slugfest. We want to play our style of defense. But, man, if they can combine –
they have talent.
That effort on the defensive end and start hitting their shots, because they have a crazy record of 300-some straight games with a three-pointer made, which I know all you got to do is make one. But, I mean, that's still awesome. And the fact that they're starting to get up there in the 70s and 80s now with some of their scores, I mean, they're not giving up 80 points.
And another one of my takeaways as well that I had down here was, just like you mentioned, I think the top 4 for the women have stamped themselves the top 4. 10-1 and in 3 9-2 teams. FGCU, Liberty, Austin Peay, and Lipscomb. EKU is a little too streaky for you to really put them in that category, sitting at 6-5 right now. But those 4 teams, night in and night out, seem to be the most productive. All right, time to talk about the men's. William, haven't talked a whole lot so far. We need to give it to you. What do you got?
I mean, yeah. Well, I agree with the top 4. The only reason I was questioning because the record wise, there's 10-1 FGCU, and then you got the 3. I could see a split, but I don't know. I mean, it's possible that it's not as it's further. The gap is further than we've talked about before. Whether or not it's close, because we always have FGCU, and then is the gap wide? Is it close? And is it tighter? But I think Lipscomb. Women's, I've liked Lipscomb.
3-headed monster.
Yeah, they've been strong. And then going to men's, Lipscomb as well. I think my biggest takeaway, I mean, outside of I wasn't anytime because of the reputation that Liberty has earned in men's basketball. Anytime you see them lose, it becomes they lost type of thing. So maybe it becomes a bigger thing than it should be. But the fact is, I wasn't completely surprised that Lipscomb beat them. I mean, outside of that Kennesaw State game, for the past couple of weeks, Lipscomb has been playing really good basketball. So they wanted that game. They played like they wanted it, and they got it done. And then you look at Eastern Kentucky. Again, I wasn't completely shocked that Eastern Kentucky was able to beat Kennesaw State. Just they're one of those teams that we talked about there in that position. And again, I think my biggest takeaway is that it's stacked on the men's side as well, because you got Stetson. I mean, although Stetson against Liberty, that Liberty kind of won that game pretty handily. You look at the Stetson-Kennesaw State game a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, that's an overtime game. I mean, you got a a 5-second inbound call goes the other way, Stetson wins that game.
Right.
I mean, they're right there in that top. You got Kennesaw State Liberty, you got EKU, Stetson's right there, Lipscomb is right there, Queens is right there. They went on the road and got that huge. I mean, they did lose to Lipscomb, and then they turned around
North Alabama
and got that shot. North Alabama.
Yeah.
So I think that my biggest takeaway is that outside of that that top, I think if you look at the women's, you've got your the gaps. I think our middle tier is larger on the men's side, and there's more dangerous teams when you look outside of those top. That our middle teams are probably better than they've been in the past, like top to bottom. I think that field, the 10 teams that make it in from the men's into that tournament are going to be dangerous teams, and I think obviously home court is what you want, and I think this year has showed us that if you're playing at home, you got a good chance because nobody has really showed to be that team that you are worried about coming into your gym. Yeah, so I mean, just overall looking at it, I mean, you take a look at Liberty, as dominant as they are at home, when they're coming into your arena, you might not necessarily be afraid to play them. Same thing with Kennesaw State. Their 2 losses that they've had in conference play have come on the road. So, I mean, that's something going into our tournament that I think that obviously home and away plays a factor, but that's my biggest takeaway, just how deep things are right now in men's basketball.
Well, I think you make a great point with how large the middle pool is, so to speak, for the conference. Is when you got a handful of games left and you look down your schedule, you better hope you're on the right path to the tournament seed that you want, because if you're going on the road against some of those teams, somebody's going to have to pick up a win to really make a statement or make that spot happen, because these teams on the road have really struggled. Obviously, some are winning, but when it's crunch time, man, it's going to be really hard to get those road wins in this conference.
And when you have that inflated middle class like we were just mentioning, it's not an insane thought to say, hey, Queens could win the whole thing. Like, that's not – sure, that might be – record-wise, that might be a long shot, 6-6, but, hey, Lipscomb could win the whole thing.
Yeah.
There are so many teams that you legitimately could make a case if they get hot, this team could actually win the tournament, where I feel like on the women's that is a little lesser than. But for the men's, I mean, you go down to Bellarmine. They're the defending champs.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and they're going to be there when it's said and done. I mean, you got Jacksonville, they're runner-ups. I don't know if you necessarily – I mean, they're probably going to – if they're in, they're probably at this point going to probably end up having to go on the road. North Florida's playing pretty good right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, a few weeks ago we were talking about FGCU. Like, they may be –
Man.
So, do they get hot and turn it on, and then they get a home game and then still one on the road? So I don't think it's not cut and dry.
Right. There's so many possibilities, and so excited to see what's going to happen when these teams get to the tournament. And that's my final takeaway. You all obviously hit on the middle class of this conference, and I was talking about Lipscomb men's basketball, and that's exactly who William pointed out. They're as dangerous as anybody, thanks to one guy. I mean, a few guys, obviously, but Jacob Ognasovic, J.O., like they call him, one of the best pure scorers outside of Darius McGee we've seen in the ASUN this season. The forward, standing at 6'8", Valparaiso transfer. I mean, this guy is not an incredible athlete, but his skill level is so advanced that he is helping this team with about 20 points every single night. And then you get a guy like Darian Boyd to chip in with 20-something. You have a player like Hassan Asadjula, who almost is an afterthought now on this team, which is never the case because he's one of the best centers in ASUN history. This Lipscomb team is exciting to watch. They have a lot of storylines that I love to read about, and they just have a lot of talent. And I think this is a team that, again, one of those I think might be the favorite in terms of dark horse candidates. The Bisons, they're a scary team.
Yeah.
Well, and real quick, I think another exciting thing leading up to these last few weeks of the tournament is with these upsets that have been happening this week, who knows what happens coming up, these set of games coming up Thursday and Saturday, but the confidence that a lot of these teams are going to have because they've already beaten these teams they're going to see in the postseason, it's going to be at an all-time high, and that makes for anything goes in the tournament. That's really exciting.
Well, here on the other side of the break, we're going to talk about our ASUN Games of the Week here on the ASUN Game Day Podcast. All right. Welcome back to ASUN Game Day. Jordan Griffitt, Mike DeVader, William Hall. I'm glad to be back here in the seat and talk about our games of the week. All right, Mike, let's start off with you. FGCU versus Stetson on Thursday.
No, the game actually got moved to Wednesday.
Wednesday,
So we're
excuse
doing
Wrong again.
women's basketball game of the week is correction Wednesday at 7 p.m. It's in the Sunshine State. We got FGCU taking on Stetson at home. The Eagles are 22-3, 10-1 in the ASUN. They were the first to clinch out of either side for the postseason championship as they locked up a spot this past weekend into the field of 10 for women's basketball. They're going to be taking on the Hatters, who are 11-13, 5-6 in the ASUN so far, but they've won 3 out of 4. FGCU, after that loss, is crazy hot right now, 11-1 overall at home. They've won 4 straight after that defeat to Liberty in overtime. But what's even more crazy about this is if you dig a little deeper, and people might not want to remember this if you're an Eagle fan, but Stetson was actually the last team to beat FGCU in the league on their home floor. So they beat them on the road 58-55 February 12th, almost a year ago from this podcast, which is pretty crazy. And
That's not a lot of digging. That's not, not too much digging.
I mean, it's right at the surface. It's like low-hanging fruit, man.
Surface level.
That's like a gardening tool. You know?
Hey, I never said it was hard to find. We just stated facts.
That's a little digging. They tried to kick a little dirt on top of it. We want to talk about that one.
Hey, well, it wasn't too far down. I was trying to bring it back up because I was going to say that Stetson did win that game. Nice win about a year ago, but they trailed the series 31-5 all time, which FGCU's had a stranglehold
down to earth.
Stranglehold on that game. But what's even more wild about this matchup is the clashing styles and what FGCU is going to try to do, which they try to do to everybody in this league and around the country. They lead the ASUN in field goal percentage. They lead the ASUN in three-point field goal percentage and points, now at 78.9. And they hit 22 threes against North Florida, and you can see that game here on the board right now. They hit 49% of their threes, and they hit 22 of them, which is first in the NCAA this year. And they've thrown up 293 threes this year so far. But conversely, Stetson's fourth in the ASUN in points per game, 59.2, fifth in steals, 8.6, and fifth in free throws attempted at 17.5. So I really want to see, first of all, can FGCU continue its dominance that it has been in the last couple weeks after that loss, improve on what they've already done, or is Stetson able to find that magic again, possibly back-to-back upsets on the road over FGCU? I know they played in the postseason, but regular season, they had the upset there. But really, it's all about Stetson getting into another step potentially to the postseason. And can Coach Lynn Bria and company try to find that signature game that they've been waiting for all year? Because they had a slow start. They're starting to put it together right now. Or is FGCU going to come out and play their game that Coach Smesko really wants them to play? And do they handle business? Because it's kind of a weird setup because they play back-to-back.
Yeah, I'm surprised you picked the Thursday game and not the Saturday. I mean, the Wednesday game and not the Saturday game.
Did you do that on purpose?
When do they play Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday?
3-game weekend.
What is this?
And 2/3 of them are during the middle of the week.
It's that mini version of the best of 3 series we got going on.
Listen, softball starts Thursday, so I'm going to assume that's what was in my head, and that's why I messed up.
That's what that was?
Yeah, I'm excited about softball.
The 3 games, Wednesday, Thursday,
Yeah.
travel day, and then you land on Saturday. All right.
But that's where I am with my game of the week, trying to spread out the love to some of these teams. Stetson's playing well right now. FGCU obviously is on top. But I kind of want to see what they're able to do and see where we go on Wednesday evening at 7 p.m.
Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
Make sure we get today. The day the podcast is being
It's
released.
today. Yeah, it's today.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have it underlined here as Wednesday, so yes, it's today.
Yeah. No, I know you're right.
I mean, I don't know.
Your side of the table's right. It's this side over here. The 2/3 are on this side of the table are wrong. It's like the Wednesday, Thursday.
All right, well, your game of the week.
What day is it?
Saturday,
Okay.
I think. Let's see, fact check me. I'm going with
Play Wednesday, Sundays in this conference.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm going with Eastern Kentucky at Liberty. It's the rematch of the game earlier in the season that Eastern Kentucky won on the Colonel's home floor.
Celebration of the year.
Yeah, I mean,
From A-Dubs?
A-Dubs came in and just wrecked shop in the locker room after that one. That was a big one. Looking at that game, there's actually two rematches happening for Eastern Kentucky this week. They playing Queens on Thursday, which, they were when Queens was. We were looking at Queens a lot, and then EKU kind of. I wouldn't say they slowed Queens down because Queens is still there, but that was the first game. We were like, oh, okay, that was a good test for Queens. So we're getting that rematch on Thursday, and then we're getting the rematch of the EKU Liberty. Obviously, at this point with men's basketball, I think every week we've got that game that you don't really have to sell. It kind of sells itself. I mean, You got Eastern Kentucky, you have Liberty, you've got the team that's number 1 in the standings, team that's number 3 in the standings. I mean, if it's already in their favor that they have that win against Liberty, the head-to-head, if you can get 2 head-to-head up on a team that's probably going to end up with a record close to yours, that's a great tiebreaker to have. I mean, splitting is obviously what Liberty wants. You lost the game on the road. You get them on your home floor, a chance to, even that season series up and split that head-to-head. I just think that this is one of those games where we could be coming – on this show next week and saying, hey, I know a couple weeks ago we said we might be back to saying Eastern Kentucky's the best team we've got.
Right.
They back-to-back weekends of beating Kennesaw State and they going on the road to beat Liberty. And on the other side of that, it could be a chance for Liberty to be like, hey, well, hold on now.
Don't
not
forget
that
about
anybody has forgotten about them.
No.
Nobody has forgotten about them. But just, a reminder, just, hey. And then, Liberty's got Bellarmine. I know they did beat them early to start conference play. They've got Bellarmine coming in, which is a rematch of the semifinal game last year that Bellarmine won on their road to win the title. So, I mean, really, that's the game of the week. I think EKU at Liberty, but there's some great games that are happening on Thursdays. I mean, we're getting to that point where those teams at the top are starting to run into each other again.
And that's what's been interesting about, this week and last week as well, is for whatever reason, maybe it's just pure luck, all of the teams that find themselves kind of toward the top here in the ASUN are facing each other down the stretch. And that's really what it feels like. You're getting Liberty, EKU, Lipscomb playing last week against Liberty. You're getting a lot of those matchups for, again, whatever reason. It's probably just pure luck. But at this point, it doesn't matter because it's really good basketball.
Yeah, and it's good for us as a conference. It's good for me as a fan of basketball and college basketball to get a chance to
some suspense.
Yeah, because these games are going to matter. I mean, with the men's basketball doing outside of the head-to-head tiebreaker and that clean 13, we're at the point where these are the games that they're going to look at when we're trying to break the ties and do seeding. And this is the difference between, or could be the difference between playing at home and playing on the road, because within the clean 13. These games are going to matter, and like we just stated earlier, with looking at how teams have been playing at home and on the road, you want to win these games that are happening right now. Obviously, you want to play your best basketball going into the tournament, but also you want to try to put your best chance of playing on your home floor, because going on the road,
I don't think this is an exaggeration. These games, pound for pound, are the most important games in the country. Being able to host playoff games in your own arena.
Yeah.
No one else does that.
Because it's
The
different.
ASUN does.
Yeah.
So you get to, if you're Liberty, who is phenomenal at home in Lynchburg, you have to come to us now. That is incredible.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you play for. So that takes us right into our power rankings, guys. Our top 7. Mike, we'll go with you first because I feel like we have some talking to do about the other one.
Well, real quick before we get into the power rankings, I was just wondering real quick if, since we have such good games coming up on both sides of the ball here, with men's basketball especially that we just talked about, did the schedule makers of the ASUN, or do they have the script to what's going to happen here in the league? Does that mean the teams are actually following the script right now to really have a good basketball season so far?
For anyone not plugged into social media, this is clearly a joke. The script that he's referring to, Arian Foster going on Barstool and talking about the NFL being scripted, which he was also joking, but not many people believed it.
Yeah.
Or if they do, then they were also adding on to the joke.
Right.
Because William, you were questioning, I mean, how did this happen? And I was just like, well, duh, I know why. I mean, but I just wanted to clarify because it's exciting to have those home games. I'm interested to see what changes are made for Liberty at home. And, man, I hope they got their practice script and they're ready to go. Okay, so we're looking at laughter all the way around here on our podcast today, but moving forward into our regularly scheduled program here of our power rankings. This past week, I updated mine on Sunday, and they go like this. So moving into the top 7 for women's basketball power rankings for the first time is the Stetson Hatters. I talked about them a little bit ago with their 3 out of 4 winning streak that they have going on. Right now, they moved to 7th. They take on FGCU in the game of the week. Jacksonville State, they are at 6. Eastern Kentucky is at 5. Lipscomb and Austin Peay. Here's where we have a little bit of a change because Kennesaw State has fallen out of the top 7. Lipscomb and Austin Peay have flip-flop positions, and I have put Austin Peay in 3rd and Lipscomb at number 4. A lot of that has to do just with minuscule things that I think Austin Peay has played so well for such a long time. Obviously, both of these teams are playing good basketball, especially since the first of the year. But Austin Peay continues to rise to the occasion, go on the road, defeat people by starting to score the basketball a little more. And I think they've earned that spot to move up into the top 3. And they just beat Bellarmine and held them to less than 60 points. And 82 points was scored on Lipscomb by Bellarmine as well. But that's not really comparable in my mind. Number 2, we got Liberty. They continue to be dominant after the slow start. But the most dominant team right now, especially after that loss to the Flames, is number 1, FGCU.
Jacksonville State starting to turn things on. I think a team that people forget about going to the final last year. At number 6, they're starting to play their best ball of the year. All right, Mr. William Hall. Let's go ahead and hear your power rankings.
Okay.
Or you want to go in different order here?
I mean, I just didn't.
How the turntables.
I mean, I'll give them to you. I mean, I feel like they're available. They're public knowledge. Anybody can go access them if you want to see them.
Sure.
I'll run through them quickly.
Yes.
Number 7, North Alabama. Number 6 is Queens. Number 5 is Stetson. Number 4 is Lipscomb making a return to the power rankings this week in a big way. They're number 4 right now.
Let's go Bisons.
Yeah. Number 3 is Liberty. Number 2 is Eastern Kentucky. And number 1 remains Kennesaw State. So I didn't have any change in my top 3.
Right. So amid some what I'll call controversy via social media,
Welcome to the club.
I think it's a good time to remind anyone listening, watching, however you choose to consume this podcast, these are power rankings for a reason. These are not the standings. These are not your handy-dandy Ken Palm rankings, standings, whatever you want to use, whatever stats you want to use to rank your team. These are the teams this year. There's no historical value added into this from previous seasons. This is this season. Kennesaw State, Eastern Kentucky, Liberty, the top 3 teams. And, William, I would 100% agree with that. Liberty at number 3, and not because Liberty is lesser than. We've talked about how good the middle class is. Liberty could easily be number 1. But Kennesaw State and Eastern Kentucky's resumes are what stands out.
Yeah, right now, these are power rankings.
Right.
And in this moment, last week I had Kennesaw State at 1, Liberty at 2, Eastern Kentucky at 3. You know, realistically, Eastern Kentucky beating Kennesaw State, they did. They won at home. They lost to them earlier, so it wasn't like they, just swept the season series. Mm-hmm. That was a good win. I think they deserve to be number 2. Liberty did lose to Lipscomb. I don't see an issue with them going to number 3. To me, they did lose. I don't think I should have just put them at number 1 because
now if Kennesaw State didn't lose, Liberty probably would not be number 3 because they both lost on the same night.
Right. So maybe people think power rankings are. They're not sure what they are or how they're using other walks of life. It is pure opinion. So it's in my view is a very small sample size. I'm looking at 12 games. I'm looking at 12 games that started on December 29th and that have gone to February 5th or 4th or whatever Saturday's date was.
It's almost less than that. You're looking at right now. What did you do for me lately? I don't remember what you did 3 weeks ago. It's,
so, I mean, I think
Kentucky wins, they move.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
I mean, obviously, this is not a prediction. I'm saying right now, Kennesaw State is the best team. This is not a prediction. I gave predictions, and I didn't have Kennesaw State going to the championship or winning it. So clearly, I'm not saying that this means that they're going to win the title. I think right now they have the best chance because I think they're playing the best right now. But I just want to just clear that up because I think people see it and, oh, he's predicting this and this. No, this is what I'm saying right now, how they're playing. Now, because even though this is what I have them at 1, 2, 3, the standings do not have them at 1, 2, 3 in the order I have. Liberty's 1, Kennesaw State's 2, and EKU is 3.
And also, for anyone out there also curious, if we were to just go by the standings, what kind of power rankings would these be?
The standings.
They would be the standings.
That's
like we have
easy.
Exactly. You have to go with your opinion, what you see, and how you interpret that. And right now, that has Liberty at number 3, Kennesaw State very deserving at 1, and Eastern Kentucky at 2.
Yeah.
Lipscomb at 4. All these teams are so good, and they're separated by inches and not miles.
Yeah, it's close, and I'm not going to do a tie in my because I could easily say 1-1-1, and then like when I do the standings, there's only tie for number 1. There's just a number 1. I'm not doing codes. There's no ties. There's 1 through 7, and there's going to be 1 through 7. And you know what? When we get to going 1 through 10 and doing the seedings, maybe I'll fill out a bracket then. Hey, I could be wrong. Just, just calm down. Let's take it easy.
You know what? Hey, so William, keep doing your thing.
I am. I'm excited. I'm ready.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to watch the games. We got games on Wednesday. We got a game on Wednesday. We got games on Thursday.
So do I.
I don't have a game. I'm talking about your game on Wednesday. The game of the week is on Wednesday for women's basketball. And I'm watching the games and I'm going to enjoy it because this is exciting. So I would say, at the end of the day, I think that this Power Rankings is something new. This podcast is something new. I think our basketball, since I've been here at the ASUN, is the most exciting that it's been. And if this is what's, getting some interaction and getting some people invested in ASUN basketball, hey, let's go for it. Let's because it's exciting.
Yeah, I mean,
and if it was boring and nothing was going on, then we wouldn't have this, so it'd be like, we wouldn't be doing this. But this is exciting because it's different, and people disagree.
If we weren't doing a good job, we wouldn't have back-to-back weeks of controversy on both sides of the goal.
Now, we're not looking for controversy, but we will take interaction, positive or negative, because talking about ASUN basketball is what we want. And that is, in the end, that is our goal here at the ASUN Game Day.
And we have good teams, and people want their teams to be represented, and that's fine. I honestly thought I was going to hear more from EKU fans about not putting the Colonels at number 1 after beating Kennesaw State. I was
beat the number 1 team.
I was prepared for that.
Right.
I was ready to be like, man, they're going to tear me up. And then I'm getting a lot from Liberty fans, and I'm like, okay, all right. That's fair, though. I love it.
It's all passion, man. That's all it is.
All right, time to move into our second to last segment, the ASUN preview. Men's lacrosse faced off last weekend. We are in full swing with that, playing several ranked teams. They played number 8, Duke, and number 11, Ohio State. Softball begins Thursday. Liberty taking on number 1, Oklahoma, and Lipscomb taking on number 4, Florida State. So not easy opponents to take on in the first slate of the softball season. Looking forward to that. And Friday also marks women's lacrosse starting February 10th with 3 matches going on. So spring is here, guys. It's wintertime, but it's springtime, right?
I feel like it's springtime. I'm seeing lacrosse. Softball's coming. Baseball.
Here on Friday, it's 1 week from opening day for ASUN baseball, too.
Yeah, it's just,
right around the corner.
It's technically, these are the winter championships. We've got indoor track coming up in a couple of weeks.
I don't think anyone's ever said on the 7th of February, it's spring.
I mean, in the South.
February is the month you should be afraid of weather-wise. It should be. It always sneaks up on you like, oh, man, February sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, all our spring sports are here, so that's exciting. Tennis is in full swing. We got golf.
They just got started, too.
So it's here. This is an exciting time of year, and we're in the final weeks of our basketball season. So it's almost time to start giving out some more hardware here. I think the first championship of the new year is going to be indoor track here in a few weeks. So
It's crazy
About
how
to be
fast
championship
this
season again.
how fast season moves, man.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it feels like we were just getting into conference play, and here we are. All right, guys. It's time. It's trivia time. I appreciate that you guys held off last week. I would have loved to see Kendrell try and get a point, but you guys.
Would it have been Kendrell's point, or was you tried to like?
It would be
by
Kendrell's
proxy
point. No.
take the
I don't take.
No, in the
that's
record
his.
books on the basketball court, though, if you have a substitute for your head coach, the head coach still gets the win, right? So controversy again.
Yeah, but I'm not the head coach. I'm just a player.
Okay.
We're all co-hosts. Just because I talk the most doesn't mean I'm running the show. All right?
That's fair.
It's our podcast. And Kendrell, again, thanks for stepping in. Podcast kept going, but the trivia is coming back.
It's coming back. Okay.
All right, fellas. William and I are tied. Wow, that was actually surprised me. I didn't look at the score for a while. Mike's still looking for his first point. I believe in you, man. You're going to get it this
Hey,
week.
I'm kind of glad we didn't have one last week because I'd be really upset if I win the first one of all time and then
You keep bringing that up, don't you?
get that. Yeah, we were talking about historical things and I mean that about the standings having to do with history of programs and I mean that's all I got right
We were
now.
talking about
I got-
what was Liberty's women's tennis beating Michigan State.
Yes.
The first ever
first Big
Big
Ten.
Ten.
victory.
So
Yeah.
you got the first ever podcast with
I
it.
mean,
You gotta run with that.
that's on a plaque in my office. But, man, I'm glad we didn't because if Kendrell would have swooped in here and got one, and then here I am. I mean, that
That would be a
that'd
confidence
be
killer for
that'd
sure.
be heartbroken.
Yeah. All right, guys. Your trivia question for this week. It's another short one. What is the single most popular item sold in Walmart? Is it A, dish soap, B, white T-shirts, C, gum, or D, bananas? What is the most sold item in Walmart?
B.
B, white T-shirts? Why are you laughing so hard?
I'm bought a lot of white t-shirts.
Unfortunately, that's the
That
first
one
thing
hit a little close to home.
That's the first thing that popped in my head as well. And man, that's kind of how I feel about this question too. But I don't know if I want to risk that tying for 2 out of the last 14 weeks.
That's so funny.
Again, I don't want to stray you, off the path here. But again, just go. I think going with your gut has proven to be
That got me my
correct.
only win.
right.
I don't know. Walmart people own the Denver Broncos. I don't like Denver, so I'm going to say A, dish soap, because everybody
We
has to do
found
dishes.
a way. We found a way.
Hey,
We found a way.
I never
found
mentioned it. No.
It's
we know
Super
what
Bowl
that
week.
means, though. We know.
I never said anything, but I hate the Denver Broncos. What is the
Why?
problem?
Okay, but why?
Because Walmart made me think of that immediately.
No. Why do you hate the Broncos?
Why do you hate the Broncos?
Because I grew up in Kansas. They are the state right next to me.
We find a
We found a
way.
way.
Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, well, there
Hope
you
the
go.
script goes their way on Sunday. I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, man,
I'll
I
be
really
honest.
hope Andy Reid gets that script right and he beats his old team in 2 Super Bowls.
But, it's Super Bowl. I mean, Super Bowl week. It should have been brought
fair.
up at some point. But it's funny how it consistently happens, and it's
Who
great.
would have thought Walmart? I had no idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And we end up in the same place. That's okay.
It's all connected, man.
It's all right. Okay.
part of the script.
So do we have locked in answers here, gentlemen?
My first answer was white T-shirts because I think that's just a generic thing that I think, man, they'd buy a lot of those. But I don't know if everybody in the whole country would buy white T-shirts.
It's true.
So,
It's just funny.
I'm gonna go. I like B too, but I'm gonna go A because I gotta make up some ground.
Dish soap and white T-shirts.
I think people have to do dishes on a daily basis all around the country. Yes.
Okay. Gentlemen, I am in the lead. It is bananas.
That answer is bananas. Get out
I
of here,
know.
man.
That's fair.
It's
I
the
didn't have to
most
pick white
sold
T-shirts 'cause this
item
was-
in
this is hilarious.
Now, here's my guess as to why that is true. Because I don't feel like people buy their produce from Walmart as much as local grocers. I feel like they're probably counting per banana. That's like, what, 6?
Well, yeah, you're just grabbing
You
a
mean
bunch.
a
and-
bushel?
Yeah.
Is that what they're called?
I don't know. Bundle? I don't know.
A bundle might be right.
A bushel?
Couple.
Bundle?
Bundle of bananas.
I bought
just
5
said-
bananas. I
Yeah,
bought a
okay,
handful.
well, here's the
The
thing. If
other
I
thing
just
is
say,
Walmart used to be open 24 hours a day, so that could also play
true.
into this.
if I say I'm going to go buy some bananas,
I don't think Walmart.
this is how you grab them.
Yeah.
I can't explain what it is, but like I'm buying them like
So,
this.
Seeker, what is it called when you
Is it a bundle of bananas?
you buy bananas?
Has anyone ever
Like,
bought
when you-
one
how
single
they
banana?
Come. We have to pull one off of the what? The what of bananas? Cluster? What's the word?
Like, has anyone ever bought a singular banana from a Walmart?
Yeah, but
Called a bunch of bananas.
a bunch.
But that's disappointing.
Yeah, it's not.
That's
a
literally
word.
like there's a bunch of stuff on this desk. You know, like
It's not the same because you can't pick it up like I don't know.
Would they yell at you like kind of those people that
A
open?
group of bananas is called a hand, and an entire stack of bananas is called a bunch. Most of the time, when we say a bunch of bananas, we should be saying a hand of bananas.
Because there are like 5 of them.
it's a hand. So it's a hand that qualifies. So like
That's where
5 or
they get-
6.
they get the term
Yeah,
banana.
you
hand.
grab them by the stem, whatever that is, and
the wrist.
the you grab them by the wrist. I've taken the lead.
Pounds of bananas for $22 at office supply.
What?
Okay. See, this is when the researcher gets an ego,
Yeah.
and now we're listing off
What do you,
things.
what do you
The behind the glass producing is just wild in this program.
You know what that means, Jordan?
What does that mean? It's time to wrap it up.
Yes,
It's
yes.
time to wrap it up.
Yes.
I finally have my first lead here for trivia. I'm very excited, but more excited about being back here with you guys next week. This was the ASUN Game Day Podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.